So the thing with all of this is it's so incredibly simple to make. So we'll get into start to make some as well.
If anybody else wants to, everyone loves chopping, like feel free to come and help, but I'm just going to be the chopper. She's going to be the boss. And all the produce today is organic. It's come from Mount Whole Foods. So I don't know if you guys know Mount Whole Foods or not, but it's a good time to give her props because she's amazing. And she does organic delivery in Tauranga and the Mount, and just expanding to Rotorua and Taupo as well. So, and she's awesome. Her name's Liam, and I've got cards here as well. You get a $60 box of veggies, organic veggies delivered to my house, and it's way more than I could possibly ever eat. So it's same price or cheaper than the supermarket. Just want to throw that in. So yeah, that's all being donated. So she's delicious.
Must be one of those weird timing things too, because I literally on the weekend googled organic vegetables delivered to Tauranga and they came up, and I literally put my first order in with them on Sunday, and it was incredible, like, because I have been doing other ways of getting the organic vegetables, and it was so cheap, and I'm quite looking forward to my delivery on Wednesday. And they do all sorts of other things, so yeah, it's, if you haven't gotten into like getting organic vegetables, I'm going to explain why you might want to start to explore that as well. So when we have a cabbage can have a lot of chemicals and sprays on the outside of it, and so that's going to kill the naturally occurring bacteria that sits on the outside of the cabbage. Not only that, if you're then fermenting it, you're also not going to get a good quality ferment. So whenever you do start to do fermenting vegetables, you want to make sure you're getting organic produce, because it's called lactobacillus, and this is a bacteria that sits on the outside of a cabbage, and that's coming up from the soil, and all the nutrients that you're trying to get out of the cabbage as well is the nutrients from the soil. So you want to get your best quality produce you possibly can, and because then the fermentation process just makes this a much more nutrient dense food as well.
Okay. So am I chopping?
Yeah.
Place it into this bowl.
And I'm a very really quite
really
thin.
Very
like
thin. Nicola brought along her homestone.
I made this on the weekend. I couldn't just, so we actually started eating it. That's the thing, is you start to make these things and they just sit and you just start to eat them. So sometimes you don't actually let them ferment enough, but because you want to eat them.
Am I doing that like
perfect?
That thin? Alright, so if everybody wants to know how thin I'm chopping the cabbage, that is how thin I'm chopping the cabbage. Can you see that? Great, awesome, thanks. The demonstration.
So the thing with all of this is I'm a very sort of slapdash sort of cook. I'm not really great at following recipes, but that's what you're going to discover, is that this is a really simple thing, and it is as creative as you want to make it. So when it comes to the sauerkraut, the first thing you want to make sure is that you've got some good quality.
This is the kimchi cabbage.
Okay.
Do you want me to make the sauerkraut first?
Yeah, we'll go sauerkraut first. Sorry.
So popular. That's a fine. Cool. Alright.
So we'll make sauerkraut first, because sauerkraut is basically the most simplest thing you can make. And all you need is a cabbage, and you need good quality salt. Good quality salt, yeah. So Himalayan salt I use, and because that means it's got all the minerals inside of it, and you need the salt because salt's incredible for your adrenals. When you get stressed, your body leaches out sodium, and so not only is getting the good quality bacteria and the nutrients in there, it's also helping your adrenals because you've got good quality salt into it too. And so what the salt does is when you start to crush it, it's going to start to produce start the lacto-fermentation process, and it's going to start to build the bacteria out of it. So when you start this, you also want to make sure that you've got some good quality jars available. So these need to be clean and they need to be sterile, but I was actually just listening to an American lady talking about fermentation, and she was saying that we can get very caught up into the sterilising everything, and we're trying to ferment things and grow bacteria here as well.
So why are we sterilising?
So this is a the sterilisation is to make sure that you're getting rid of anything that you don't want out of the jar. So you're wanting to make sure you've got a really, really clean jar. I don't personally put these in the oven or boil them or anything. They just come, they're clean jars, I've cleaned them, and that's the way that I work. I'm not too particular, but this is at your own risk. So at your own risk, be sterile as you want, but we are creating bacteria, and that's what we're trying to do. So make sure they're clean, so they haven't got something in there that you don't want. And then you're going to be putting the vegetables in there.
Do you want more? There's more.
We'll try a little bit instead of that.
Otherwise I'll just eat it out of the jar. You want more?
I want more.
Yeah.
That's really good.
So you guys like it? Is that your first time trying it? Or?
Yeah. Does anyone not like it? Does anyone?
It was quite strong.
Yeah. The spice, like the chili side to it, or is it taste?
So I just guess I've never tried anything like
Yeah.
It's alright, just interested. It's alright. You're not going to get detail.
Yeah. Yeah.
How? In a Korean restaurant? Yeah.
So when you have like, when you do go to like a,
Hush everybody.
when you do go to like a Korean restaurant or certain different other, they have like condiments that'll be sitting on a table, and that's fermented foods. And whatever country you go to, it's going to be quite different. In Germany, if you have a hot dog, they'll put sauerkraut over top with then tomato sauce.
Or if you go to Crazy Chicken, just so that you know, you can get a plate of just sauerkraut, but it's hot.
Oh, right.
That's horrible. I tried it. It was gross. It wasn't like that fermented, like real sauerkrauty taste.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry. Just
So when it comes,
they eat it in Korea. They eat it every single meal.
yeah,
Breakfast, lunch,
Yeah.
and dinner.
yeah. So when it comes to, so we're going to start with the sauerkraut. And the sauerkraut, so you have fermented vegetables is the overriding topic of tonight. So all of these are fermented vegetables. And so fermented vegetables can be fermented from 3 days through to 5 days, or through to sauerkraut, which is about 14 days to 21 days, or like half a day. So it just depends.
Can we just do that much?
Yep, that's perfect. Yeah.
I think this cabbage was like $2 from the organic delivery.
Yeah.
We should figure out how much it costs to make.
So then for a bowl like this Himalayan salt, I would put...
This is the cabbage, this is the salt.
I put 1.5. So my bowl's slightly bigger at home, that would be 2, but you don't want it to be too salty as well.
Would anybody like to take a picture of me on the iPhone and post it on the Facebook page? Yes, that's
The before and after. So now that's it. That's all you need is cabbage and salt, right? In a jar.
Are you serious?
Yep. So now this is for sauerkraut. So now you just start massaging. And so she's going to be there about 5 minutes. And so that's going to turn into
that?
Over 14 days. So that's going to ferment down. So these...
Seriously, you pay $13.50 for that little jar.
But that's why, the way to think of it is like wine as well. The better the what do they call it? The batch, the more expensive things are, and they do have to sit there and ferment. And it's gold. It's live food, you know. And there's not enough people out there making it, and so it is. It's.
Is it the longer the better? Like if you leave it, like you want it like 14 days minimum?
Yeah, so it can be up to 48 days for sauerkraut.
So that's how long it lasts after it's been opened?
No, that's how long it can ferment for. And then all you do is you put it in the fridge, so you stop the fermentation process. So this will all be fermenting in a cold place, so a room temperature place in your house, not on your bench with the sun coming in. So you just put it in your pantry or in the garage or somewhere where it's just like a room temperature, and that's just going to ferment over time. So what happens with cabbage as well is it actually increases in vitamin C by over 50% in the fermentation process. So that's why, like, Captain Cook was taking barrel loads into his ships to prevent scurvy, because you're releasing all these digestive enzymes and you're crushing in all the nutrients, and so you're just making this incredibly nutrient dense food. And so you know how we've got proteins, we've got carbs, and we've got fats. We all get caught up in the protein, carbs, fats. Should we have carbs? Should we not have carbs? Should we have fats? Like, it's this whole, wherever you look, you sort of get a bit confused. The way to think of food is how much micronutrients can I get into my body, and so how much nutrients per meal can I get in. And so that's when things like carrots. So this is going to crush down to about this. And so you having like a couple of tablespoons in a meal is like having almost 2 cups of a cabbage. So if we're trying to aim to have like 5 to 6 cups of vegetables per day, having fermented vegetables is this real condensed way of getting incredible nutrients into your body.
Now I see why you chop that small, because if it's big, the chunky, so you can't crush that.
Have a look how it's like halved in size, and it's starting to get a bit wet now.
Do you do the same thing with kimchi?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So somebody going to need a volunteer for these. Just kidding. It's actually quite satisfying. It's like, making scones.
Yeah.
So does it have to go in the glass as well?
Yes. Yeah. You would put it.
It cause a reaction if you put it into metal.
Yeah, and then you also, because you don't want to be leaching in any of the stuff out of the metals as well, or out of your plastics, because it's live food. Like, we're wanting to get real food that gives our body energy, and so if you are putting, you want to make sure your water is really good quality water, because if you've cleaned your cabbage or you've cleaned your bowls, your bowls will be clean, but if you're adding water on top of it, you're not wanting to put a whole lot of like chlorine and things in there, because it's just going to kill the fermentation process. So you'd want to get as good quality water as you can. And saying that, if you can't get good quality water, you're doing better than not having any as well. So it's not this, it's just you do the best with what you've got, and adding half a cabbage is awesome. So
what water do you use?
We've got a filter coming through our fridge. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Once you take the lid off and there's the air gets, does that shorten how long it will last, or how long?
Yeah. So when you ferment, you'll see, I'll put this down here. So when I've done this, I push it down so liquid's sitting on top. And so when you ferment vegetables, the fermentation process is lactofermentation, which is an anaerobic process. That means without oxygen. Lactic build-up in your muscles, that kind of benefit. It's a similar thing that's happening with these, so you don't want oxygen. So when this is in there, you would need to fill it right up to the top. And then what you do is you get some large cabbage leaves left over.
Those are the ones that I threw away over there.
So when you start doing this, you take off the outer leaves and you keep like 3 or 4 outer leaves. And so then at the top of your mixture, you push that leaf on there, and you lay that up until that's sitting. So then you're making sure that the fermented vegetables are all under liquid. So if you've done it in the past and bacteria or something has grown, mould or something's grown in the past, that's because oxygen's got into it. Or if the top's gone a bit funny, it's because of the oxygen. So it's all got to stay underground. Yeah.
Cool. Is this almost ready?
Maybe, yeah, a little bit longer. Has anyone got any questions so far?
I was just going to ask with the nourished one, I know it uses the body
Yeah.
bacteria.
Yeah.
Do you think that makes a difference?
It totally does.
Yeah.
So
They
what
add
you
bacteria to it.
yeah. So you can get starters, vegetable starters, and they've so that's just adding another layer, and you're going to be introducing more bacteria into there. So the reason I do it this way is the cheapest, it's the simplest, it's the most traditional. There's always things you can do to make things easier and to bring things in, but then again you're having to go buy something else, so it's making it another process of the too hard basket, because you're having to then go get a vegetable starter. We've got salt and we've got sauerkraut, but though when you do get a vegetable starter, it does create an awesome product, and it does increase the amount of good quality bacteria in there. So Yeah, totally. And so there's heaps of different methods of making it, and it's just, you can also put probiotic pills in there as well, because that's kind of what the vegetable starters are too. And because I've been getting to making coconut yogurt, here's a little trick. So you get your coconut milk and 2 probiotic pills, and you put the probiotic pills into your coconut milk, leave it on the bench depending on the temperature, leave it on the bench and you've got coconut yogurt in about 3 days. Or another way to do that is if you go buy the really delicious coconut yogurt, don't tell anybody this, and you get a couple of tablespoons of the product that's already a coconut yogurt, and you put that in the bottom of your jar, fill it up with coconut cream, and you've got then coconut yogurt. So it's just like you would make if you were making traditional yogurt. You always have the starter, and the starter can be an old batch, or it can be some probiotic pills or some other starters.
And the same thing, do you make sure there's no oxygen, or does the
No, yogurt doesn't matter. Yogurt doesn't matter. Yeah, so that's
in glass as well?
in glass. Yep, yep. And I let it. I close the lid on my coconut yogurt as well. Yep.
Did you say you use coconut milk or
Cream. Yeah.
Bring any jars? You did
I did bring a couple of jars.
That's as much as we're going to do now, because we're going to, otherwise we're not
Yep.
going to time.
So then all we do is put that into the jar and squash it down. And so this here is basically that, but that's got red cabbage, carrots and spring onions. And so it looks really pretty, but it's the exact same process, and that can sit out on the bench for 3 days. And I've got like a fermentation process, and then you just put it in the fridge, and it can last up to 6 months. If it's in the fridge, like it'll just stop producing.
You squash it?
Yeah. And so then kimchi starts exactly like this, but all you're doing then is adding flavour to it. So that's why I start with this, because it's the simplest. So that you can kind of see there's some air bubbles in there a little bit.
You go.
And so you push it down really hard. Can you see how hard I'm pushing? And can you see the liquid coming up? And so then we just need a little bit more Kim. And because then there's liquid in the bottom. And so then you put the liquid, you need this to be under liquid. And this brine mix, so you keep filling it up. And you put it to the top. And then you get your cabbage leaves. And you make sure...
So you don't add water?
No, there should be enough in there, and depending on how much you crush it, there should be enough liquid, but you can add water to it if you don't, and it's just the salty brine that you can add to the top. And you just need to make sure that this is covering the whole lot, because the aim is to make sure there's no oxygen. It's just covering it up. Put the lid on, and you leave it in your pantry for like 7 to 14 days. So it would be, if you just left it 3 days, it's fermented vegetables. If you leave it 14 days, it becomes sauerkraut, and the vitamin C increases in it.
When I made it, like I followed some recipes that said every day you take off the lid and push it down.
Yeah, you can do that.
But it's not essential.
Not if you've packed it correctly, because when you make big batches and when they're traditionally made, they just get put away.
Yeah.
So there wouldn't be somebody going in and taking them down. So you can, but it's not an essential process. You do need to make sure that you put this in a bowl or on a tea towel, because it's going to bubble. Because the fermentation it comes to life. And
Do you close it? Do you close it now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you just need to make, because there's going to be some runoff and a bit of liquid, a bit of a mess. So you just I just put it in like a baking tray and put it in the cupboard. And usually you've got a few going, so you just batch them up. So easy, eh? That's sauerkraut.
Easy. Woo! It's cold.
And so all you can add things like caraway seeds and fennel seeds, and you could just put a little bit in, then a layer of caraway seeds, and you could make it look quite pretty with the seeds and your layers. But that's how you can just make it more flavour to it.